friend. Welcome to Sunday morning. I have a question for you this morning. Who is your worst enemy? Who's your worst enemy? Think about it for a minute. Your worst enemy, that person that just thinks ill of you, can't stand you, hopes you fail. Who's your worst enemy? Just pause for a second and just kind of make a mental list. Who would you add to that list? You have some names that come to mind. These are the people who they just hate you. They're your worst enemy. They want you to fail. In fact, they wish you weren't even around. I was thinking about that this morning, and I was thinking, I honestly couldn't think of any names to put on that list. Interesting, I couldn't think of any names to put on that list. And I started thinking about, what is it that our enemies think about us? And then I walked by the mirror. And I thought to myself, the reality is, I think I am my own worst enemy. As I started thinking about it, I thought, my enemies, if I have any, they're not spending a lot of time thinking about me. The truth is, the people that we think don't like, they just really aren't spending a lot of time thinking about me. They're doing their thing. They're living their life. They're out doing their stuff. And I got to thinking about the tapes I play in my own head, the stories I tell myself, the narrative that I have going in my own mind. And oftentimes I think that we are our own worst enemy. In fact, we tell ourselves things that are worse than our worst enemy would probably say to us. If you stopped and thought about the tapes you play, the thoughts you have, I wonder sometimes if we, in fact, are the ones that wish the most harm on ourselves. I really don't think our worst enemy is spending a lot of time saying things about us that we say about ourselves. So how do you defeat your worst enemy? How do you defeat your worst enemy? If in fact we are our worst enemy, if in fact we are the ones who are beating ourselves up more than anybody else would beat us up, how do you defeat your worst enemy? It starts in your mind. I want to talk to you for just a second about the power of our thoughts. Our thoughts are so incredibly powerful. In fact, our future is determined by our mind. The outcomes of our life are determined by the things we think about. And the things we say about ourselves are so important. Our thoughts produce our feelings. And our feelings produce our actions. And our actions produce our results. We have circumstances, we have thoughts, we have all this stuff going on around us, and we have thoughts about them. And the thoughts that we have, the narratives that we play, the things we tell ourselves. What do you say about yourself when you walk by the mirror? What do you say about yourself when you're going through the day? When those thoughts that we have about ourselves, that produces a feeling. That feeling of inadequacy, the feelings of worthlessness, the feelings of sadness and depression, and those feelings produce actions. And if I'm depressed, I'm not going to act a certain way. If I'm sad, that creates a certain type of action. If I'm excited, that creates another type of action. And our thoughts produce our actions, and our actions produce our results. Or our thoughts produce our feelings, and our feelings produce our actions, and our actions produce our results. That's just the way it happens over and over and over again. And so when we stop and think about that, when we stop and think about the power of what's going on in our mind, we need to take those thoughts captive. I want to challenge you today. To do a mental inventory. What are the narratives you play? What are the tapes you play? What are the thoughts you have about yourself? Are those thoughts helping you move to the place you want to be, or are those thoughts defeating you? Are you, in fact, your own worst enemy? So what can you do? How do you defeat your worst enemy? Starts by taking your thoughts captive. The one thing we have control over is our thoughts. The Bible says that no longer be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. By taking the thoughts of your mind and what are you doing in your head and being renewed by being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Another passage is taking your thoughts captive. Take those thoughts captive and say, you know what? No, this thought is not serving me well. This thought is not truth. This is a lie from the enemy, and I am not going to live into this narrative. And take your thoughts captive and choose new thoughts. Choose a new narrative, and you'll see a new you. Choose a new narrative, and you'll see a new you. Because our life comes out of the things we think. Just a thought this morning. I wanted to encourage you. We have a choice every day how we show up. How will you show up on this day? This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And I will choose my thoughts wisely. Go have a great